Hello there guys, and welcome back to the channel. So in this video, I'm going to be recovering a build that I uploaded about a week ago now, and that is the Invincible Titan Loreley Splendor build. It has been improved massively because of the new fragments that have released. There were two new fragments that released after the community hit a certain threshold of nightmares defeated, or events completed, I'm not sure what it was. But let's just say those fragments are kind of busted and have made the build so much better than it was before. I mean, before we were invincible, but now we have God mode. It is just stupid good. And the build will work with any exotic too, if you throw in Classy Restoration. But I decided I would cover Loreley Splendor first, since this build will essentially work as well as it will in any season, in any upcoming season, when Classy Restoration is gone. But I still will cover a few other exotics in a similar matter with Classy Restoration, built around being invincible in the future. So, I'm going to skim through a lot of this stuff pretty quickly because it's mostly the same, but there are quite a few changes that I will get to soon. So, starting off with the mods, of course, we're using a lot of resistances. I do recommend a lot of resistances, as much as you can get, even if you have Artifice Armor, put resistances here too. Just get as much of it as you can. You want as much damage resistance as you can get, so resistances are a good play. Then, since I am using the baby hammer, again, of course I haven't changed that aspect of the build, we are using melee Wellmaker because it's a very easy source of elemental wells, and of course since the baby hammer gives you cure, you won't have to worry about getting up close and personal with some enemies to get some wells. Then, when you make a well, you will pick it up, obviously, and get Well of Life to activate, which will give you 10 seconds of healing. We are not using Elemental Time Dilation this time, so it's only going to be 10 seconds, but, of course, that's perfect. Then also, when you pick up those wells, you will get Font of Wisdom. Now, unlike last time, I don't have much intellect. I had a lot of intellect last time, but this time I don't, because I've spec'd into a different stat, as you can see there, Discipline. We'll get to that soon. So I've thrown in Font of Wisdom to maintain my super, because I still think it's very valuable for the build, you know, for ad clear, a panic option, whatever. It's still very nice, so I wanted my super still, despite not having intellect. Then I have Elemental Light, because I don't have slots. This can be whatever you want as well. You don't have to use Elemental Light, but of course I am going to be saving supers and using supers pretty frequently with Font of Wisdom up, so having access to more Well of Life is kind of nice when I come out of my super. And also when my super ends, I'll have Font of Wisdom up again to get those that super back faster, which is very nice. Very nice synergy there. I have Radiant Light because stats. I'm a fanatic for stats, and I love triple 100, so I've got that in there. You don't have to have that in there either. You use whatever you want, but it is nice. Plus, Momentum Transfer is nice for backup hammers. If I somehow throw my baby hammer off the map, I could use a grenade to get it back a little bit faster, which is good. Now, as for orbs, since we are going to be using lots of orbs in this build, I have double siphons. I have Harmonic Siphon for my solar weapon, because I'm on solar, and I have Kinetic Siphon for my kinetic weapon to make the orbs too. And with those orbs, we are using double recuperation for health. Of course, this is a God mode build, so we want as much healing as possible. And double recuperation is great. I'm pretty sure double recuperation still works. Let me know if this actually still stacks or not. I'm not sure. Otherwise, I'd probably just use Innovation for more grenades, which would then lead to more melees. Nice synergy there, but I'm pretty sure double recuperation still works, so that's why I'm using these. And also with those orbs, you will be activating Radiant Orbs, which makes you Radiant when you pick up an orb, which is awesome. Now, my subclass has been changed in a way that disallows me to use the Become Radiant on melee hit. You can still use that fragment, I will touch on that later, but since I'm personally not using that fragment right now, this is my only source of Radiant. And of course, with the new fragments, we will be extending this anyway, so this is still perfectly fine. But also what this mod does is allows you to pick up orbs endlessly. So kind of like Star Eaters, basically, if I have my super active, or if I have my super charged fully, and I don't have this on by default, I cannot pick up orbs anymore, right? They're just going to sit there. You can't pick them up. I've got my super already. Can't use recuperation because I have my super. But with this, you can pick up orbs endlessly, and that means I can activate recuperation and I can activate radiant as much as I want as long as I have orbs, which is great. So, with all the mods out of the way, we are going to get to the subclass now. This is where it gets a bit dicey. A lot of things have changed here, and this is where the new fragments come into play. So, Burning Maul is getting a buff by 25% in PvE. So I'm using this now because it has a quicker recharge time than Hammer of Soul by quite a lot. And since we're using Font of Wisdom to get tier 10 intellect on top of everything we have, we're going to be getting Burning Mauls back pretty fast, which is nice as a panic option again, or ad clear, or background boss DPS, whatever it may be. It's also going to be nice for Scorch and Ignite later on, since it does work hand in hand with that. So yeah, I'm using Burning Maul. Everything here is the same. Next we have Sol Invictus. Of course, we will be crutching on these very hard. Putting down my barricade with Loreley Splendor will activate Restoration ×2, which we will be extending infinitely, and essentially is our main source of being a god, right? Having god mode. So yeah, 100% of this. This makes the build function. So yeah. You'll want Sol Invictus. It also applies Scorch and Ignition too, which is going to be great for later. So overall, an insane setup. Also on top of that, the Ignite, or the Ignition on Sol Invictus actually gets boosted by Roaring Flames. Roaring Flames will increase our solar abilities and our Ignition's damage quite significantly. Stacks up to 3 times, and it's just an overall great option to have because everything in my setup does more damage with this on, including the sunspots. Okay, now for the fragments. This is where it gets a bit dicey, it's where it gets changed. A lot of things have changed here. So first off, we have Ember of Singeing. This is actually still the same. Your class ability recharges faster when you Scorch targets. We have a lot of sources of Scorch currently, so this is amazing because, of course, we need those class abilities to proc Restoration ×2, and with Restoration ×2 comes God Mode, so this is perfect. Then I still have Ember of Wonder in here. You can swap this out. I have this in here as a way of getting 1, triple 100, because I'm a fanatic for that, and 2, Orbs of Power. Now, we've already got a lot of sources of orbs, but having more sources means we get more Radiant, and it means that we get more Recuperation for health. But you can swap this out for the Radiant on melee hits. Normally I would use Ember of Torches, but of course, triple 100 is something that I like to keep up, and currently I do not have good enough gear to maintain that with this and the class ability fragment. So I had to sacrifice this for now. I still do have a source of Radiant and a way to extend it, so it's still fine in that regard. But if you want to have this in here, you can. Next up, we have the new fragment, Ember of Empyrean. This fragment is completely broken, and I fully expect this to get nerfed, but until then, this is going to be a very, very significant part of the build in giving you Restoration and Radiant. So what it does is Solar Weapon or Ability Final Blows will extend the duration of Restoration and Radiant. So I'm getting Radiant on orb kills, and then I kill them with my Solar Weapon, or I kill them with my abilities, and the Radiant gets extended to the maximum timer, which would be 10 seconds in this case, because I don't have it extended through the fragment. So I'll pick up an orb, it'll start at 10 seconds, I could get it down to 1 second, and then kill an enemy, and boom, back up to 10 seconds. It's insane. But the main thing about this is that it extends Restoration. So just putting down my class ability with Loreley active, or just with Loreley on, I should say, will give me Restoration ×2. And then any solar kill, it doesn't matter what kind, any solar weapon kill or ability kill will extend that Restoration ×2, effectively giving me infinite God mode. Because Restoration ×2 is just God mode by itself, but now I can keep it up permanently. That's insane. Now we do have lots of synergy with this fragment and this fragment here with the solar weapon of choice that we're going to be using to extend. So even if we somehow do run out of Restoration, we will always have a class ability to proc it back up, which is great. And then, finally, the next new fragment is the Ember of Char. Your solar ignition spreads Scorch to affected targets. So we have a lot of source of ignitions already, and those ignitions will scorch enemies and give me class ability back faster because, you know, when I scorch enemies, I get class ability back. And this will go hand in hand with the weapon that I have as well. So that's pretty much how everything's going to work. Essentially, we're going to scorch targets and give me my class ability. I'm going to put down my class ability. I'm going to kill things. I'm going to pick up orbs from the things that I kill. I'll have Radiant and Restoration. And then every kill after that will just keep extending Radiant and Restoration permanently. It's pretty dumb. It's pretty broken. You will have God mode and you will have a permanent damage buff constantly. Now, if you want to use Font of Might as well instead of Font of Wisdom, you can have a 50% damage buff to your solar weapon permanently, which is pretty insane. Now, finally, we have the Callus Mini Tool. You can pretty much use any solar weapon you want, but the reason why I recommend the Callus Mini Tool over anything else is because, one, it's a 900 RPM SMG, which always feel great, but it also has access to Enhanced Incandescent. And what Incandescent does is when you kill an enemy, no matter what kind, and no matter how you do it, you know, it just needs to be any final blow with the gun. It doesn't have to be a headshot. It doesn't have to be whatever, right? It just needs to be a kill. You will spread Scorch to any enemy nearby. Now, of course, Scorch gives me my class ability. My class ability gives me Restoration, and then Restoration can be extended with the gun itself, which means we have an endless cycle of scorching enemies, using the gun to extend Restoration, and proccing Restoration with the class ability. Now, of course, because this is solar as well, we're using Harmonic Siphon to fuel Recuperation and to fuel Radiant Orbs, which then, you know, makes me Radiant and gives me more health on top of the Restoration. So this gun is single-handedly fueling Radiant, health, and Restoration permanently. And because it's a very fun gun to use, and it's, you know, a very nice 900 RPM SMG, it's very satisfying to use, that's just great overall. Now, roles for this weapon, I would recommend basically what I have. The reason why I have Grave Robber on this, of course, is because I'm going to be using my Baby Hammer to make Well of Life. I'm going to be throwing a lot of Baby Hammers at things and spawning wells. And because of that, the gun will automatically reload every time I throw my Baby Hammer and kill something. So I don't have to reload. Every kill scorches. Every kill gives me class ability. Therefore, every kill extends Radiant and Restoration permanently. So that is the God Mode build, updated to its prime, to its peak. I don't think it can really get much better than this. And of course, again, this is the Loreley Splendor version. I will probably be covering this again with a different exotic in the future. It'll be a chess piece. It's Heart of Inmost Light, of course, because the 3 stats I spec'd into are perfect for it. And Classy Restoration does exist, so we can get a infinite health God Mode build with that exotic too. But it will only last this season, so I'm not going to put too much emphasis on it, because of course Loreley Splendor does make it so that this build can last permanently up until the end of time, or until they nerf all of this stuff into the ground. So yeah, but that's it. That's the build. Let me know what you think. Let me know what you think of the whole God Mode aspect of Solar 3.0 now. And let me know what you think of the new fragments, because I think they're broken, especially the one that lets you extend Restoration and Radiant. But other people have said that it's a perfect mix, considering Void 3.0 had a lot of very broken stuff. And I mean, we have Devour on there, right? And Devour is basically just this, but you have to have a lot of micromanaging and a lot of setup to actually achieve that. So yeah, let me know what you think, and hopefully you enjoyed. Adios.